start this one.
Interesting.
So,
Okay, we're done. Okay, so good evening, everybody. Hey, it's Yoshi.
Hey.
Okay, so thank you very much for coming today. Today we have very interesting topics. The main talk will be presented by Julian. But before that, let's go quickly over the Azure updates and what happened in August. First, machine learning. So with the machine learning, we have several major improvements. There is mainly improvements on the service API management part of the machine learning. So you know, in machine learning, basically you're able to create your models, but after that you can host them as APIs. So we have multiple improvements on this second part, like hosting your models as APIs, and basically being able to host these APIs in different subscriptions, different resource groups, and in general adding a lot of flexibility. We have also better metrics and analytics on this API. So basically, you're not only developing the models, but you're taking care about the infrastructure. Something that is getting very interesting is Microsoft is investing a lot in operations management suite. So you can integrate all the logs that you have from multiple systems on your on-premise, your AWS environment, your Azure environment in one place, and be able to apply machine learning and other analytics to see how actually your entire IT infrastructure looks like. So there is multiple new features, add-ons to that, basically security and also cloud-enabled features that allow you to see what's going on with your whole IT infrastructure. Cognitive services, something that we'll touch a little bit today, but we'll not go too deep in it. Basically, the computer vision API and academic knowledge API went to public review in August. So with computer vision, as you may guess, you're able to analyze pictures, extract information in terms of tags, and also different objects that are inside the image. And with the academic knowledge API public preview, you'll be able to apply the knowledge exploration service to Microsoft Academic Graph. So basically, this will give you a lot of information about different scientific papers in the science world. Something that is very exciting is the public preview for Azure N series virtual machine is active now in August. Basically, these virtual machines are very good for deep learning algorithms and applications that are utilizing a lot the GPU. So there are like two classes of applications that you can use. The first one is basically deep learning. The second one is more like around visualization, remote desktop, like a rendering. If you're using like an AutoCAD or Maya, a type of software, these virtual machines are perfect for you. I know that there was a lot of demand for Japan that these virtual machines can be used by multiple businesses here. But I think currently this is only available in the central US, and maybe Tsuyoshi or somebody else that will join later will share like when they are actually coming to Japan. But very, very interesting scenarios can be enabled with that. Actually, they are powered by GPUs that are provided by NVIDIA. So basically, currently, they are the fastest GPUs in the cloud. Very, very interesting. Definitely go and check some of the key scenarios that are available. There are a lot of improvements with Azure SQL, but the key one is that now we have like a new performance level, PA15, that allows you to support up to 4,000 database transactions per unit. So just for comparison, the previous performance level was P11, and it was only up to 2,000 DTUs. So it's a huge, huge improvement. And basically, you can enable very powerful scenarios. SQL is trying to close the gap with document databases, with partition databases. So it's a very interesting comparison how, in what cases you can use DocumentDB, in what cases you can use Azure SQL, in what cases you should go and use Azure SQL Data Warehouse. And this is the other improvements that we have. Azure SQL Data Warehouse, it was generally available. So what is the difference between SQL and Data Warehouse? Basically, Data Warehouse is for highly parallel type of operations. So when you have your data refined, you usually will put the data in the Data Warehouse and try to get like, some deep insights about your business and try to find out like, how you can improve your business based on the data that you have in the Data Warehouse. It's relatively more expensive than SQL, but the cool part about it is that you can scale independently storage and compute. So let's say you don't have so big requirements on storage, you can go ahead and compute and get your results relatively faster. On the other hand, if you're not so busy trying to get your results faster from the data set, you can have like a big data set with not so much compute in order to save costs. So this is interesting, very interesting solution. And combining, for example, storage, Azure SQL Data Warehouse, Data Lake, you can enable very interesting big data scenarios. I know. Something very interesting is the combined offering from MySQL and Web App. So basically here the idea is when you provision MySQL next to Web App, basically they'll be hosted on the same app service plan. So you're reducing the networking costs, and they're also sharing same storage. So basically you really can optimize your storage mechanism with your Web App deployments. This is currently in a preview, so I think it's very good if you go and try and provide some feedback. I think it's very interesting change in the mindset how you store your database. Here, basically, the database becomes like a part of your Web App deployment, which is completely different than what we were doing before that, and we're thinking for a database is completely separate entity. So very interesting. Please go and check it. Azure Search now fully integrated with Azure Blobs and Azure Tables. So if you put in the blob, let's say your PDF, your Office documents, your HTML documents, your JSON documents, you can index them and search, and search can provide you a lot of insights. The cool part is that you actually can extract metadata, and also you can try to guess the schema dynamically from the documents. So this is like a great starting point, and after that you can refine it based on your specific use case. Also, there is like an improvement for the .NET SDK. And this team is a very interesting team. Maybe you don't know, but they're really operating as a startup inside Microsoft. The idea for this product was pitched in front of Microsoft in the same way like startups are pitching to investors. And from then, the team really tries to keep it very agile. So they're very welcome to get your feedback. So please try. And I think if you have a direct feedback, you want to reach the team, you can contact me or somebody else from the Microsoft. But very nice team, like very open for new ideas. So definitely look into them. And recently we are working with them on integrating search for a Japanese text. Actually, it wasn't that good, but they added support for Lucene type of queries. And also recently they announced a synonym type of engine. So I can explain you that we have an issues, for example, when we are searching for the kanji mizu, we're getting irrelevant results because it wasn't able to figure out the katakana pronunciation, or vice versa. When we enter in katakana mizu, we didn't get any relevant results. So now this is resolved. So it's getting more and more attractive for Japanese type of scenarios. Service bus is going to the new Azure portal, and basically people who are creating new instances will be redirected to the new portal. This is like a great, improvement because for me there are like several services that I still manage in the old Azure portal. This is API management, Azure Active Directory, and things related to Service Bus. So now this will be just limited to API management and Azure Active Directory. And I also know that Azure Active Directory is going to the new portal. So we want to see more and more services actually moving to the new portal. Unfortunately, Event Hubs will be still only supported in the old portal. So you need to wait a little bit before the whole Service Bus offering is moved to the new portal. Mobile apps and parse server. It's getting very interesting because, as you know, like Facebook doesn't support anymore parse actively, but it looks that Microsoft is supporting it more and more. So now parse is available, the template for parse is available for the marketplace for each of Microsoft Azure regions. So it's really easy for developers to run this thing in Azure. In terms of mobile apps, we have improvements regarding the SDK, especially about the offline sync, and there is improvements about the integration with Apache Cordova. Azure Schedule and Azure Automation. For Azure Schedule, we have like a full new set that is based on the Azure Resource Manager that is serving, creating Azure Scheduler jobs and profiles. So this is greatly improved the way that we are thinking about Azure Scheduler automation and adding it to run books or just writing normal PowerShell scripts. Something interesting about automation, now we have support for proxy environments. So for example, if your environment is utilizing proxies, you should be able to realize that thing with runbooks and Azure Automation. And Azure Automation is a great service, allows you to schedule things based on time, and also with the help with OMS, Operation Management Suite, you're able to have alerts so you know like when your automation jobs are actually failing. Some very interesting topic that I'm particularly investigating recently is Azure DevTest Labs. I think maybe DevTest Labs is one of the fastest way to get your enterprise integrated with Azure, because allow you to create environments that are only targeting development and testing environments. And also the cool part about this stuff is that you can set very precise cost boundaries and thresholds, as well as to limit really what developer can do in this environment. So you can have a predictable outcome, how much money you spend, and also not to risk too much, like allowing developers to create resources that are too costly and can potentially generate a lot of traffic. So the cool part here about this is that now we are not limited on the number of virtual machines that are supported in one DevTest lab, and also this was mainly coming before that from a storage account limitations. Now the workaround is the DevTest lab will create for you like several different storage accounts that will serve your environment. So this is what I mentioned about cost management. Now you can very precisely define what will happen when your developers actually consume more than what is expected. So you can define actually actions when your developers spend 50% of the budget they have. Like you can trigger email, or you can basically block them at certain case, but at least you have the control doing that thing. And this is how it will look. Basically, this is the graph, and you see how the consumption go. So you can react quickly and limit further actions if this is your policy. Something very interesting is you can set also expiration date on your virtual machine. So let's say my project will be a POC for 1 month, and after 1 month, basically the virtual machine will be deleted in 24 hours when the date is met. So you have like a full control on this environment. Another nice enhancement is if you need to store SSH keys or passwords, now behind the scenes a key vault is created for you. And when you create these instances, you just can pick up from a checkbox and set it instead of remembering and manually typing it. Azure Active Directory B2C was generally reached a generally available status. This is very nice offering that allow you to actually provide the identity mechanism for your end consumers. Azure Active Directory was targeted mainly to enterprises, but this specific offering is going to the end consumers. It has very nice integration with social providers like a Microsoft account, Google and Facebook account. So it's perfect for websites and any entity, mobile apps as well, that provide you, that ask for user credentials. We have also improvements for Azure Active Directory. The integration for SQL and SQL Data Warehouse, it's improved. So now you can have your on-premise Azure Active Directory synchronizing with Azure Active Directory in the cloud and integrate this experience with SQL and SQL Data Warehouse. So this actually closes the circle, and you can ensure that your users, only your users, employees are getting access to the SQL database and SQL Data Warehouse. Also, we have improvements on the single sign-on stuff and ability to enhance stricter policies. This is something interesting, Microsoft Authenticator. So Microsoft, before that, have an application that allows you basically to utilize a multi-factor authentication on your Azure subscriptions. This is the new version of this application. There are like several improvements, but if you use the mechanism, please update to the latest one called Microsoft Authenticator. App service environment improvements in terms of internal load balancer in virtual networks that you can deploy your workloads. It even works with intranet and this mistake like a line of business applications that you can deploy in your virtual network that you integrate with app service environment. So app service environment is isolated environment only for you and your workload. So when you create a web app, it's shared environment. But app service environment is dedicated only to you, and you can specify it and manage it and be sure that nobody else is using the same environment as you. It's a little bit more costly, but you have full control and you can plan a little bit better its utilization. Logic App reach also general availability. Logic Apps are a great solution for integrating several services in Azure and also allow you to integrate like several SaaS providers like Box, OneDrive, Google Drive, I'm not completely sure, but Yammer and so on. So basically you have workflow type of application. So let's say you send a message to a service bus queue, then you have a Logic App that takes this message and can send an email or SMS message with Twilio, for example. So very powerful mechanism and can enable very interesting scenarios. Azure Security Center, I personally started to use this service recently, and immediately it showed me that on every single virtual machine that I created in Azure, I have an issue. Firewall is missing, the OS is not updated, so it's very useful to have like a security overview on your environment and be able to react quickly. Actually, the pitch here is that allow you to monitor your environment, but also be able to react and monitor if there are like a live security attacks going against your workloads. Microsoft Stream is something interesting. This is actually allow you, in the context of enterprise, to upload videos, share videos, and make it a lot easier than before. I'm not sure what's actually backing up behind the scenes. My guess it's like a media services, but the idea to share video or use video as a main collaboration media in that enterprise is very powerful. I think now Microsoft has several different options of its 365 video. Now Microsoft Stream, it will be interesting to see in the future how these different offerings differentiate between each other. This is something interesting as well. Apple Fair Play streaming was added to media services support. So now we have the main encoding platforms that Google use, Apple use, and also Microsoft use. So if you're in the video business, media service actually provide you all different tastes of encoding and DRM that you want to use. So media services become one of the most powerful video solutions in the cloud. Something that it's very interesting for me is that Azure CDN from Akamai now supports HTTP2 protocol. The big offering points with HTTP2 is that you can have like a multiple TCP connections, multiple TCP requests over the same connection. You can archive your headers in order to save traffic. And something that will come in the future, server will be able to push actively data to client caches. So this is very interesting scenario that we were envisioning for a long time in our team, but we're never able to do it effectively. This particular feature is not available now, but the team is working on it, and probably in a few months' time, we'll be able from server to actively push to client cache and have the data refresh without to make additional requests to the server. DocumentDB enhancement on the SDKs, basically adding automatic replies and parallel queries, and additional functions like order by and top functions. Azure Automation, we are now able to run in the context of special account, basically by uploading a secure certificate, we can identify our connection based on this certificate. Azure Backup, okay, let's skip that thing. This is something interesting. Now able to have like a VNet peering for Azure Virtual Network. So this means that we can directly connect VNets in the same region. So now we can have like a private IP address connection if we're in the same network, if the both networks are in the same networks, and then we can basically realize like a packet routing via Azure Backbone. So this means that we will skip part of the usual path that packets take between the different hosts thanks to this VNet peering. Maybe Ross, you have to make like a one talk about infrastructure and explain a little bit deeper why this is cool or not. One thing that we have to remember that this will work across subscription and also will work between our ARM environment and Azure Service Management environment, which is the old type of architecture that Azure has, but it won't work only between two VNets that are based on the old architecture ASM. So we'll take this into consideration. And virtual machines, two very nice features. In-place VM migration basically doesn't require any more reboots. So for example, if we have security updates, OS updates, what will happen? The virtual machine will pause only for 30 seconds, but it won't reboot. And you know, sometimes with Windows machine, it takes a little bit longer. So we are avoiding this step. The goal of the team is basically to avoid any reboot of virtual machine. Doesn't matter what kind of update will happen. So this is a very powerful mechanism, and I hope that the team will be able to achieve it soon. And the other one that I want to highlight your attention on is if we have serious issues with our virtual machines, and we don't have any other issue to solve it, but we need to migrate to another virtual machine, now there is workflow in the portal, also support for CLI and PowerShell, that we can do this a lot easier than before. So basically, this is now a supported workflow that we can utilize easily. And this is it. It was a very quick run, but this is just to give you hints, like if you find something interesting in these topics, to go and check it yourself. So, Julian, may I ask you to show the other presentation, the Taiki?
Yeah.
Can you present quickly your initiative before we go to the main talk? So, just introduce Taiki. He made an awesome talk like a few events ago about Azure Machine Learning, and he's the first speaker that I've seen to present both in English and Japanese at the same time. And he presented like a very high quality presentation. And today, I'm really happy to announce that he's starting his own meetup. He'll give you more details, but yeah, please share more about your event.
Okay, thanks for the time for me to explain this. So I'm Taiki. I usually visit this Azure Meetup as well as the Dynamics community. I'm mainly a partner from JBS, Japan Business Systems, and I usually work on Azure-related PaaS systems as well as Microsoft Dynamics, which is a CRM system. And basically what I started up from this month in August is called the Japan Dynamics User Community. I'm just going to explain a little bit about that here. And basically, what it is that Microsoft actually presents lots of line of business oriented applications called Dynamics. One's called Dynamics AX and CRM and Dynamics Marketing. And it's not really for Japanese market, but there's also NAV, GP, and SL. The community that I started up mainly focuses on the Dynamics CRM, also along with Dynamics 365, which is announced from WPC a month ago. So it's mainly about CRM related stuff and customizations. And the scope of that talk is about on this. Well, basically it's a CRM system, which means it's related to customers, and anything related to customers like marketing, sales, and customer services, we'll be talking about it in this community. And The second meetup that we're having next month is called basically Let's Do It Together. It's a general casual meetup, and you can learn how to customize Dynamics CRM. There will be some sessions, hopefully, maybe in 3 or 4 months, about combinations using Dynamics CRM with Azure PaaS systems, which I'll probably be mainly presenting on. But at the moment, there's only really basic fundamental stuff on CRM. So if you are interested at all at CRM systems, please have a try attending this meeting. I will be there, so even if the talk is all in Japanese, I'll translate it for you. So please, if you don't have any other plans, please visit Microsoft Room A on the 16th of September. And that's it. And if you'd like to enter, this is the URL. Please have a look. Or you can search on Google. It'll also be up there. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now we'll transition to our main talk for today. Thank you very much for your patience. So I'm very honored today to have Julian as a speaker. I've been working with Julian for several years now. And I can tell you that he's a very good developer, but the key thing I think for him recently is that he's able to give us like a very broad overview of various technologies. He started to work with me as we're developing together Windows 8 applications. After that, I think he moved to Android, and now he's basically also covering iOS. So he has very, very unique experience covering both mobile platforms and also .NET ecosystem. And today we have like a very exciting talk that goes one step further. We're approaching a new very exciting environment about computer science as a whole. We start to integrate more and more intelligent solutions in terms of machine learning, intelligent bots. And Julian was one of the first people in our company that started actually integrating and playing with bots. So I'm very honored today to have him as a speaker. And let's enjoy the talk.
Thank you, Kenyo.
Yeah.
Very nice introduction. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, hopefully my engineering skills are better than my PowerPoint skills. I'm not sure it will work. Yes. Yes. So yeah, I'm Julien Bataillé. I work at Rakuten. Thank you very much for coming tonight, despite the typhoon we have in Tokyo at the moment. Hopefully we'll be able to go back home tonight. So I want to tell you during the next 30 minutes everything I know I learned in the past few months about how to build chatbots using the Microsoft bot framework. Before I jump into my presentation, I will give you a demo of actually what we will be discussing today. It will be a very simple chatbot that allows you to search for a hotel in Japan. So this is Skype. In this case, my bot is connected to Skype. So I can ask him something like, I need a room nearby Shinagawa station. And just with this simple sentence, the bot will be able to understand I'm searching for a room and where I'm searching for the room. I didn't hard code Shinagawa station, okay? I can show you later another example. So it will ask me, like from this starting point, the bot will guide me in the conversation to collect all the parameters it needs to make a hotel search. So it's asking me for a check-in date. I would say tomorrow night. And the next step is it will ask me about how many nights I will stay. I would say 1 night. And the last step is how many guests. So I would say 2 guests. And hopefully tomorrow night nearby Shinagawa station, he can find hotels. So you see, I can find not only 1, but actually a few hotels. So there is, yeah, I guess you know those hotels, right? And it's kind of cool because you see, like Skype can show me this nice list. It will work exactly the same if you use Android. You will see, you will be able to scroll in this list, and you can have this more details or book now button. And if I click on this book now button, I will be able to directly jump to the booking page of Rakuten Travel, the best service to book a hotel in Japan. And you see it's like pre-filled with all the information you need. You just put your password with your Rakuten ID, because we all have Rakuten ID right now, right? Of course. So okay, it was just to give you the context. During the presentation, I will use this particular chatbot I built as a way to introduce my examples. So we will use the Microsoft Bot framework that Microsoft introduced earlier this year during the Build conference. They released the framework and they published this website. It's really good because there is only a single website. You don't need to go anywhere else. There is everything you need right there. There is a documentation. You can download the SDK, and you can manage your bots once you publish it. The bot framework is mainly made of 3 components. First is a bot builder. You need to get the developer tools. You need to build your bot, and Microsoft is providing all the SDK, sample library, developer tools you need. Most of my presentation, I will be talking about this bot builder. Once you're ready to publish, the developer portal will help you to manage your bot. And finally, when it's ready to go in production and you want your users to be able to find your bot, you can use a bot directory, which is some kind of app store, which makes it easy for your user to find your bot. I don't know if you've been using Facebook Messenger to find bots, but actually sometimes the challenge is to actually find a bot. You heard about it, but to find a way to adding it to your contact list to start a conversation, it can be challenging. And this is what Microsoft is trying to solve with the bot directory. So tonight, because we are Azure Meetup, and I think most of you guys are .NET developers, I will be focusing on the .NET SDK. But just in case, if you go to the GitHub project, you will notice that there is also a Node.js version of the SDK. So at the moment, you can choose between using C# or Node.js. Both SDK are almost equivalent. The one in C# has a few more features, but I think they are working on having both SDK feature equivalent. So I really recommend you to clone the repository from a GitHub project, because instead of just building your bot from scratch, a good way to get started is actually to open one of the sample projects from this repository. And if you want to follow along during this presentation, you just need Visual Studio, updated version, Visual Studio 2015. You just create a new ASP.NET Web API project targeting the .NET Framework 4.6 or more recent, and just add an empty template with core references for Web API. And the only dependency you need, the only library you need, is the Microsoft.bot.builder NuGet package. That's it. So as you can tell, if you are an ASP.NET developer, I think you will feel very comfortable with SDK. There is not so much magic. It's just an ASP.NET Web API project. And again, if you want to follow along during the presentation, you will need this. This is a Microsoft Bot Framework Channel Emulator. It's a tool that helps you to develop and debug your chatbot locally on your machine without the need to publish to a hosted web server. Okay. One thing before we jump into a sample code, I want to explain about one very important component of the bot builder. It's a bot connector. So, when I check the other platforms from Line bot or Facebook Messenger or platforms, they all assume that you will build your bot and it will be directly connected to your client or your user. For example, you build a bot for Line, it will directly connect to the Line API. But Microsoft has a different approach, and I think this is what makes the bot framework very unique. Instead of connecting directly to the channels. There is a bot connector provided by Microsoft that stands between your bot and your user. And the benefit of that is that instead of learning every single protocol from Slack, from Facebook Messenger, you actually just need to know one protocol to talk to the bot connector. And the bot connector is actually translating to the particular channel you're talking to. So you might think, okay, if there is a specific feature from a channel that is not available from the common API from the bot connector, if using a bot connector will prevent me from using this feature. It's actually not the case, because when you talk to the connector, you always have the information of where the message is coming from, which channel the user is using, if he's using Slack or Facebook Messenger, and you still have the option to fall back to a lower level API to pass raw message for a specific protocol and still get benefit from this particular channel. So the first point of a bot connector is to translate between protocols. But the other very important feature is that there is a second API, which is called the state API. It allows you to store the state of a conversation inside the bot connector. So why it's important is because you remember the conversation I had with the bot. I start by saying I search for a hotel. And then I give multiple parameters. So it means that I'm sending message back and forth. But you need, at every single message, to know the context of the conversation. What happened before, what the user said a few messages before. And one solution would be to store it inside your bot application. But if you do that, you have a real problem of scaling your bot. It means that every single message needs to be routed to the same instance of your bot, or you need to have a complicated shared access to the state. So the bot connector is solving that, because what's happening is that every time you communicate with a bot exchanging messages, you get this serialized state that get passed along. And every time you exchange a message with a user, you know about the context of the conversation. It allows you to scale this bot instance very easily. So essentially, your bot is a stateless. This is an important point. So now I explain about this. I will actually jump into, I will try to jump into Visual Studio. If it works, yes, it works. And I will open my project. Anyone wants to try to run a project? No, it's okay. You will follow on my screen. Okay. Okay. So as I just told you, you can see I am in Visual Studio 2015. This is a ASP.NET Web API application. I have only one dependency on my Microsoft Bot Builder NuGet package. And my bot has one controller. So a very simple API controller, nothing fancy. You can see that at this stage, the only namespace I added is a Microsoft.bot.connector. I receive a post message from the bot connector, and inside the body, I deserialize an activity class. So at the very beginning of the bot framework, the first version, we didn't call this class activity. They used to call it message. But they realized that actually message coming from the bot connector, it's not only text messages, it's really activities. Because when you make this bot interface, you need to think about things like user typing, or user saw your message, or user added your bot to a chat group. This is getting a bit complex, right? So you're not only receiving messages, you're also receiving events, and this is why this class is called activity. So when I get this activity, I checked if it's actually a message. And the first bot we will create for my demo, it's an echo bot. So it's a very simple bot that just copies the incoming message and replies echo with the message from the user. So I have this helper method on activity to create a reply. I need to create a new instance of a connector client. And using this connector client, I can send a reply to my user. Okay? So now, how do I test this thing? Because remember, like, you're supposed to exchange messages with a connector. But at this stage, we didn't set up anything online. I just want to debug locally. So to debug locally, it's very similar to a web app. I'm just running it. It will open Microsoft Edge. I can tell like my bot is listening on localhost. And I have this app provided by Microsoft, which is the Microsoft Bot Framework Channel Emulator. So this one, I just need to set up the bot URL to localhost, the correct port, and this is, you see, the path of my controller. And I can start to test sending messages with the emulator. I can send hello, and hopefully the bot will reply hello. Ooh, okay. Forget this part. This is the second part of the demo. It's just sending echo hello. This is on the right. You can see the JSON messages sent back and forth from the connector. So I received this from a connector. I'm replying this to my user. This is very useful to troubleshoot and debug before deploying. And very quickly, the second thing, I mentioned, I said the bot connector helps you to maintain state. So the second part of my demo is to include the state client. So you have a second client you can use to connect to the state API. So this is very similar as the first state. I instantiate a state client. I can retrieve the state for this particular conversation. But it's getting a bit complicated. You can tell that you have to maintain both clients, and now you have a lot of code in your controller. Actually, I just wanted to explain this so you know how it works behind the scene. But the way you're really supposed to use the bot builder SDK is using something that Microsoft provide. It's Dialogs. So Dialogs are an abstraction of all of this under the hood state management and message exchange. Dialogs classes encapsulate all of this and allows you to compose messages. So compose dialogues, sorry. So what's happening is instead of having to deal with raw messages and trying to deserialize every single time the state, the same exact bot now, I can show you in how it looks. I just need to implement the iDialog interface. My dialog class needs to be serializable because the class itself will be serialized and stored using the state API. And now you see, for example, this field of the class. When I generate the reply, I don't need to manage this retrieving the state. It's just deserialized by the framework. Let me go back. And the way I handle it in my controller, you see, is just using this helper method from the bot builder dialogs conversation. It means that basically I will send this activity and I pass a delegate that will initialize a new dialog. So the framework comes with actually a few classes implementing the iDialog interface. There is, for example, a prompt dialog that allows you to manage yes and no answers. There is a very advanced one which is called form flow. This is the one I use in the hotel search. It means that you can define each property of your class becomes a question you ask the user. So in my hotel search, I have, for example, a guest count integer field. And I can say, initialize this dialog, and I want the user to answer this question, and it will be assigned to this field in the class. So you can build this kind of a form like a dialog with the user. But now I'd like to go back to the very initial question I asked the user in my. I asked the bot in my in here. I said I need a room nearby Shinagawa Station. And if you think about this kind of interaction, when you start to develop a bot, you will say, okay, I will try to make a complicated regular expression where I will look at what is it searching for. If it says the location, it would be probably after this word or something like this. It's not scaling very well. If you do that, you will end up with having a lot of very complicated code. And trust me, when you ask people to use your bot, they always come up with very strange way to ask questions. So for example, you see in this example, if I say, find a hotel in Osaka, it's a completely different structure from the previous example I showed you. But still, actually in this case, also the bot understood exactly the same thing. And understood that Osaka is the location. And for this, what we will use is a natural language processing service called LUIS. LUIS means Language Understanding Intelligent System, right? I'm looking at the Microsoft people in the room. So this is part of the cognitive services suite. So there are a lot of services in this cognitive services package. This one is very useful to understand the intent of a user. And this is not something which is shipping in a bot connector or in your bot. This is actually a completely separate service. So this is, for me also, it's a very interesting architecture, because if you compare with other offers, maybe Wit.ai from Facebook or IBM Watson, all those solutions, they tend to package everything together. And one thing I like about Microsoft Bot Framework is you can very easily pick and compose your service using different parts. And LUIS is one part you can use. We will see later that integration with a bot builder is very good, but you don't have to use LUIS. You could use any other third-party service. So the way it works, basically, oh yeah, and this is a separate website. So this is www.luis.ai, where you can go to create a LUIS project. In my case, I created my hotel search agent.
That's a Microsoft thing as well? Is that separate?
Yeah, that's a Microsoft thing. That's a Microsoft service. And the way it works is I trained my model with, at the beginning, maybe 20 or 30 sample sentences. And once you train your model, you just use the API from LUIS to basically send a sentence like this, like, I need a hotel nearby Shinagawa Station. And using this input, the output from LUIS is basically to analyze the intent. So in this case, LUIS found that it's a search intent, and it's 99% sure of this result. It found that the search entity is a hotel. You could be searching for other things. You could be searching for a restaurant, I think. And it also found that the location is a Shinagawa Station. So I think this is a good example, because in this case, it really picked Shinagawa Station, not only Shinagawa. See, I think this is something which is really hard to achieve if you make your own parser.
I have a question. How do you train the model? You just basically interact with the web UI?
So the way I did it is I interacted with the web UI, because I just input some statement, and I tagged manually.
So you just manually tagged those initially?
I tagged initially. And then when people started using my bot inside the company, when I asked people to use it, all the statements they send to me, I see it in my Lewis administrator interface. And I can choose to tag it to improve the model.
Are you going to show it?
Sorry?
Are you going to demo that? Or?
Maybe after the presentation.
I think the key point to understand that it's actually very easy to train the model. I think maybe when you hear like a train model, it starts to think about data science operation, but actually it's a UI, you interact, just enter sample sentences, and after that, the system trains itself. It's not that hard to start.
And what's interesting is you don't need that many samples. You can really get started with 10 or 20 iterations.
Can you do something if the score is under a certain amount that it'll actually notify you, in a sense, to review it?
Yes. So what's happening in this case, I show you a single intent.
Yeah.
But your Lewis model can have up to 20 intent in a single project. And it means you can recognize different intent from the user, and sometimes it's very close. Like, I want to go to this hotel or find a hotel. And the SDK will automatically select the best score for you, but you have access anyway to the value of the score, so you can implement your own logic to select the best.
Is it just English at the moment?
So at the moment, Lewis supports 5 languages.
Yeah.
So
Spanish.
Spanish, Chinese, French, English, and the 5th one I think is Portuguese, but I'm not sure. So this is how my hotel search example is implemented, basically. As you can see, it's implementing a Lewis dialog. So as I told you, this is one of the iDialog interface implementation provided by the SDK. And the way to integrate with Lewis is really super simple, because all you need to provide is in a Lewis model attribute on the top, you provide your credentials to access the API. And then you just tag those methods with the name of the intent. So you see like the Lewis intent called search intent. When Lewis detects that the sentence your user sent to you match this intent, it will call this method. And then you can process it. So for example, in my bot, the user can say, I need a hotel. So for example, it will miss the location part. But that's fine. I can handle it in my logic. I look into the results from Lewis. I know it's searching for a hotel. And then actually my bot will generate another question to ask where do you want to go. So you can customize very easily. As I told you, this is my top level dialog. This is a Lewis dialog. But then when I get into this process hotel search form method, I will call another dialog, which I initialize here, the form dialog. I call it, I use the context, the dialog context, to call a child dialog, and I pass it the child dialog, and I pass a callback when this child dialog will complete. So it's really a stack. You manage a stack of dialogues. When a child dialog completes, there is usually an output, which you can process in a parent dialog. So it's very easy to compose. You can see at the bottom the Lewis intent with the empty field. It's like when my Lewis model could not understand what you were asking. It's the default. Any question? So I want to talk quickly about, once you finish developing locally your bot, you can go to the oh wow, I'm not sending. Just a moment. You can manage your bot using the website I was mentioning before. So as you can see here, I can go to my bot. So in my example, I have 3 bots. I made a first test. I made the pizza bot that I think everybody knows about.
Yes. Is that one of the default ones?
Yeah, it's the
bring
default
down?
one from Microsoft.
Okay.
And the last one. So this is how it looks like once you publish your bot. Interestingly, of course you can publish your bot on Azure, and I guess this is what Microsoft expects you to do, but you don't have to. The only requirement is you need to have a public endpoint, so the bot connector can connect to your bot, but you can host it anywhere. You can see that this is my messaging endpoint, where my bot is hosted, and from there I can enable channels. So for my bot, I enabled the Facebook Messenger channel, the Skype channel, and in here you can see the other channels available to me. So from there, you can usually add a channel. So for every single specific channel, you will have specific credentials to retrieve for this service. You will have to configure. But this is really, I mean, you can deploy your bot, and I could add a new channel right now, and my users will be able to use Slack to talk to my bot without actually any need to change anything in my source code or redeploy. So this is for the management. And the last part is a bot directory I told you about. So this is where you can find bots. So I think you heard recently the Skyscanner bot has been published. It's quite popular, and you can find all the bots that Microsoft advertise. At the moment, I believe it's not open publicly, so you cannot yet submit your bot. So I think all those people are like partners of Microsoft. But I guess soon you will be able to add your bot in this bot directory. Thank you. That's it for me for our presentation. I think we have time for questions.
Yes. Yes.
If you want, I can log in into my Lewis project, for example. I think you are interested.
And one thing you mentioned was it's hard to find the bots as well. How do you simply add a bot to something like Skype or any service like that?
Actually, yeah, it's at the moment it's really hard. So, for example, for my bot, the way I do it at the moment, because my bot is not published in the directory.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So I have to go here. I have add to Skype button.
Yeah.
So.
And if they're published bots, I've never tried to actually.
So you have to search it. I think by name, or you can go to their Facebook page, for example, if it's Facebook, and you can start talking using messages, and the bot will reply.
So, for example, if I want to add your bot that is hosted in Skype, how can I do it? Because obviously I don't have the same button like you.
His isn't published yet.
Actually, it's a good question.
Does anyone use any of the bots? Yeah. Right. Okay.
So
we have a question from Microsoft. How to add the bots? For example, Julian has a bot, right?
Yes.
And it's only visible in his own private space. Yeah. How currently I, as external user, can add his bot that is not on the directory?
In near future, we'll open the protected public, so
Okay.
you can register.
Until then, just wait.
Or you can look up your Skype ID. Of your bot.
Okay, this is interesting.
So
yeah.
if you click this, it'll give the ID.
Yes, I guess
Okay.
this ID there.
Oh, that's okay.
So yeah, maybe if I share this link,
Yeah.
people can add it.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we can try later. And as I said before, depending on the channel, you have different features. Skype is interesting because you can have group conversation with bots. Yeah, so that's really cool.
I have another question. What was the most challenging for you until doing all that stuff?
I think it was. Let me see. I think it was in handling the natural language processing part. Because the demo I showed you, for example, when asking for the date, at the beginning, I just set up something so you had to input the date format, like 2016/06/12. And when I give that to users, it never worked because people expect something to say like tomorrow, next Tuesday, or June 15. And so actually you can find third-party libraries to help you with that. But I think, mainly the biggest challenge is to handle input from the user that you don't expect. When I ask for how many guests, almost everyone replied something like, yeah, 2 adults and 3 kids. And I expect an integer. So yeah, the one I show you is really like just a prototype. I think when you actually develop a bot, it's a lot of technological challenge and a UX challenge to find a good flow of conversation.
You actually adjust it so you can actually say something like 2 adults and 3 kids?
No, at this point,
It's integers only.
Yeah, I stopped. Because I was really developing a proof of concept.
Yeah.
And I was more interested into solving the first part where you can say almost anything. And actually, I didn't show you, but as you can maybe see here, if I zoom, my Louis project, it's not only solving the search intent. Actually, I have 3 intents. I have one which is convert currency intent. And this part, I implemented something similar. When you type in Google 100 Japanese yen to US dollar, and it gives you a conversion. So my bot also handles that. And also weather intent, asking for the weather. So I was trying more to focus on that, being able to handle more than one intent from the user, not only the search heading. But let me show you, for example, this is how you add a new sentence to your model. I would say something like, find me a room in, or like close to Tokyo Disneyland. I'm adding this to the model, and you can see that this is what my model found, that it can understand it's a search intent. It's certain it's a search intent. And if the search entity is room, but for the location, it's actually missed the location. It tagged to Tokyo. So I will fix that. No, no geography. Okay, I can't find it. Normally I can select.
Yeah, I did see a pop-up once.
Yeah, okay. Maybe I should use Edge. I'm not sure. Yeah. So the idea is that you will tag this. I will tag it as a location, and I will submit to my model. And this is one I added manually, but in the suggest tab, I can see what the user had input, and I can tag the user input. So for example, you can see people put this one. I need a hotel around Shibuya. This is actually correct, so I can add it to my model. Now, find me a hotel near Nagoya. So actually, this is the location. So I should be able to, okay. Oh, demo effect, too bad. Okay. But yeah, I guess you see the idea.
Yeah. Can you do things like that when you've got, I guess, the second part of your step involved in the first? So yeah, you've got that, find me a hotel in Nagoya for 2 guests.
You mean like I could also find for two guests?
Yeah, because it's like the next part of the, I guess, the next step.
So I didn't do it, but definitely the next step would be I should be able to understand within this sentence the guest number. So I should also be able to add to my model something like find a hotel from Tuesday the 5th to Wednesday. All of this is just a matter of training your model, like adding samples. And I think if it's getting too complex, you will not use this web UI anymore. You will probably use the Lewis.ai APIs.
Okay.
Because everything I'm doing here is available through APIs. So you can upload a set of sentences. You can also download your model. It's very interesting. You can export your model and to keep it in a source in a Git.
Okay.
And also I've seen like other people like developing regular expressions, basically to generate sentences based on this regular expression, just to enrich the model.
You pretty much go to their Git, pull it down, and in a sense import it into yours to help.
And before that, you have some kind of engine that will generate a bunch of new sentences based on the keywords. So then you have like a larger set, and Lewis or other cognitive type of service can basically develop more accurately.
That's pretty cool.
Because I think one of the biggest challenges is to give it like a large set. I think in English should be in general easier, but imagine Japanese.
Yeah.
Like
We tried.
yes, so it's I think a lot more challenging because you have so much hidden knowledge and like intent inside the intent.
So yeah, that's it for my presentation.
Very good.
Thank you very much. Can I stop sharing, please? You want to say a word to people watching, or?
Yeah, thank you very much for your attention. I think it's a great it was a great presentation, and also I think this is just the beginning. Obviously, all the services that are going in AI space, Microsoft, Watson, and other alternatives, they're competing very much. So we are seeing a lot of innovation coming. We also think that the tools actually emerging with every single day. So I hope that next time Julian will show us even more advanced stuff. Yeah. So thank you very much for your attention, and please give us ideas what will be interesting topics for you next. But definitely, I think AI is enabling completely new set of scenarios, and I think we are starting to figure out how to build very scalable systems. And this, with the help of cloud, is not challenge anymore. It's only a matter of good architecture. I think now we're moving to the next step, how to build intelligent, scalable systems. I think the technology that Julian showed today, it's a first step towards, but we have a long journey. So let's enjoy it together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stop sharing.
Yeah, I know. Maybe the other one.